Hi, everyone. My name is Julie, and I am here with Deborah Byrd. And I so appreciate you, Deborah, being here with me and taking this time to share
My pleasure.
such an important message and some really amazing experiences. So before we get into some of the interesting experiences, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit of your background, if that's all right?
Well, I am a retired nurse. I was a nurse for 33 years. I retired in 2004 to take care of my husband when he became ill. And he is a professional musician.
Oh,
He has been playing drums since he was 13 years old. And we met at the age of 18. We were both 18. And we were married for 41 years. We have 4 adult kids, 2 girls and 2 boys, and 10 grandkids. So that's pretty much my life in a bundle.
yeah, that's a lot of grandkids. That and alone will keep you busy. Um,
Exactly.
Wonderful. And a musician. That's nice. How nice to have a musician in the household. So
It was a wonderful experience.
yes. Well, so how about if you share with me your first spiritual experience? What got you interested in this topic?
Well, my very first spiritual experience happened before he passed. I actually had a premonition, a dream that he had passed, and I was there at the funeral, and he just opened his eyes with a smile on his face, got up, and walked over to me and said, "Come on, Deb, let's go home." And we walked down this aisle, like a cathedral aisle. And at the end of it was 2 rounded doors, like maybe 20 feet tall. And he took his hand and pushed the door open. And I got a glimpse of heaven. And it lasted for maybe 2 seconds.
This was
And that was it.
during a dream or
This
you were
was a dream
awake?
that I had. This was a dream that I had before he passed.
Wow. Um,
And when I awake that morning, I couldn't talk to him about it. I couldn't talk to my kids about it.
mhm.
And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. And it was like it sat there in my stomach, like a sour feeling.
Mhm.
So I was very alarmed.
Yeah. But this was before or after he was sick?
This was after he was sick. This
This
was a
was
couple of, maybe a week or so before he passed that I had this dream.
okay, okay. Wow. And you didn't tell him? You never told him about it?
I never told him about it.
Okay.
Never told
Um,
my kids about it because I was so alarmed because we weren't expecting him to pass when he did.
oh. Have you had
So,
premonitions? You never had premonitions before that in your life?
actually, I had a couple
Okay.
during my adult life.
Hmm.
So it's not like it was really new to me. Um, but I never had one like that.
Wow. Do you have a religious background at
I
all?
do not.
Okay.
I do not.
And your husband, he did not either?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
And I also had, I don't know if you want to call it a premonition or, well, something happened right before we took him to the hospital. Um, I usually would give him a back rub, and he asked me for a back rub. So I got up to walk to the kitchen to get lotion for his back, and something stopped me dead in my tracks and told me, "Look at your husband." And I turned around and looked at him, and his back was to me. He had laid down in the bed.
Hmm.
And I got ready to take another step, And the voice got louder and said, go and look at your husband. And I walked around the bed and I looked at him and he was having a seizure. Never had a seizure ever before in his life, ever. Not even close to having a seizure.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah.
Scary.
That was very scary. So I still didn't have any idea what to think because my main concern was him.
Right.
You know,
of course.
having that medical background, that scientific background. My main concern was just to make sure he was okay.
Of course.
It was like an instinct for me.
And
So,
then your next experience was a pretty big one for you,
yes,
correct?
Absolutely.
Can you share?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I can. The very day that he passed that morning on February 2nd, 2016. And after being with him for a while, we got home and my kids were here and a couple of other relatives. And we were just sitting around, and mentally, I was still at the hospital. I just could not comprehend that my husband had just passed. He began talking to me. And he told me to get up and go outside. It was like February in Cleveland, Ohio. That's cold. And I didn't think about it. I just did it. But here's the thing. We had a telepathy long before he passed.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I did not
We
know
had
that.
a telepathy long before he passed. I could sense him. He can sense me. I mean, it was wow, the telepathy we had. So it wasn't unusual for me to, it wasn't unrealistic for me to listen to him because I knew he wouldn't tell me anything wrong, and I knew it was him. I knew it was him. So I did get up and I went outside. And once I got out there, I began telling him how upset I was that I couldn't save him. And he stopped me dead in my tracks and began talking to me. And he told me to listen to me carefully. And he gave me specific instructions about his memorial service and specific instructions about other things in our life. And he told me he would always be with me. And then I felt the biggest hug from him. I can't even explain what I felt, but I felt the biggest hug from him. And I knew at that moment that everything would be all right, that I would be okay.
Okay, remind me, this was how long after he passed?
A few hours.
And did you hear his voice audibly in your head, would you say?
That's hard to explain. It's kind of, the best way to explain it would be to say that it really wasn't his voice, but I knew it was him. I just knew it was him.
You sensed
but it
him.
wasn't actually his, yes.
But you
More
had
of a sensing and a feeling of him.
And you had this before, though, when he was living. You had sensed these kinds of things before from him?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it wasn't that unusual.
When he was a professional musician, and we had a language. He would be on stage and I would be in the audience and we would be having a whole conversation.
Wow.
And we did this for years before anybody caught on to it. And when other musicians caught on to it, they were like, oh, that's unbelievable. How do you guys do that?
Okay.
You have a whole conversation from across the room. So yes, we had
quite a connection.
A special connection. We did, but we never thought twice about it. We never
Wow.
viewed it as being a spiritual connection. Because, life gets in the way. When you're trying to raise 4 kids and, you're trying to make a way,
Mhm.
you don't really think about a lot of things.
Right. But had you talked to other couples and assumed maybe other couples experienced this?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
Because
okay.
most of the couples that we knew over the years didn't have the connection that we had. Even the ones
Okay.
that decided to stay together, despite the fact that they didn't have a connection.
Mhm.
So we didn't know a lot of couples that were as close as us.
Okay. Let alone, I mean, I haven't heard of this kind of telepathy between two people. So
And I definitely hadn't.
this is pretty cool. And then it carries over after death. So, or
Yes, absolutely.
after he passed on. So then he sends you outside. Did he ever tell you why he wanted you to go outside in the cold?
Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, it wasn't cold.
Oh,
It was warm.
okay, that's
It's
interesting.
really weird. I mean, the whole ambiance of that moment was like nothing earthly.
Mm,
It was a mist, like a light rain, but when it fell on me, it was warm.
mm.
It's like really hard to explain. It was an ambience that cannot be described,
Yes. Now
but it was
do you feel like he kind of planned that? I mean, he kind of planned
absolutely,
the weather in a sense,
absolutely,
that experience that you had.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. Because on the day of his memorial service, we had maybe 3 feet of snow.
Wow.
So we went from
Mm.
55 degrees that night to 3 feet of snow. So yes,
Oh
absolutely,
my goodness.
absolutely planned.
Did he have this kind of telepathic connection with his children or just with you?
He did. He did. He did. My oldest daughter, she's always been intuitive, but when he passed, he immediately connected with her.
Wow. How nice.
And he was giving her messages for me. And it's amazing because a lot of times I would have conversations with my husband in my house in private
Hmm.
when she wasn't around.
Right.
And she would call me and say, Mommy, I had a dream of Daddy, and he told me to tell you so and so and so and so, which correlated
Hmm.
with the conversation that me and him had.
Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't
that's
believe it.
so cool that you get that confirmation. Oh my goodness.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm really thrilled that he reached out to his children as well and his
Mhm.
grandchildren because his
Wow.
grandchildren witnessed a couple of incidences with him as well.
Wow, he has a
So
really good ability then.
yeah, I've been told on more than one occasion that he's a very strong soul. So he had a strong aura about himself when he was here.
Mhm.
He had a very strong aura, and it just carried over. So I'm
Is
not surprised.
do you also call this is this called trans-dimensional relationship? I know that
Yes, absolutely,
okay, that's what it's
absolutely,
called. Okay, I these are
absolutely.
new to me.
Yes.
I've just started meeting people who have these. It's amazing. Um, would you would you care to share any other unusual, wonderful experiences? I mean,
Oh,
with him
I got a
for
list here.
you've been communicating
I'm
him with several
communicating with
years
him
now.
every day. Yes, it's almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in February. So now we've gotten to the point where it's easier.
Okay.
I finally accepted the fact that this is really happening to me. So he's very grateful for that because us being human, we go through a lot of emotion. and a lot of different feelings, especially when it comes to the afterlife, you know, and things of that nature. So we bear a lot of self-doubt, you know, and I finally gotten to the point where I can live it. I can actually live the experience that I'm having.
Wow. How long did it take you to get
Because
there?
it continues, little by little, little by little. But at this point today, I can say that I'm finally there.
Do you ever go?
It took a while.
He comes to you, he speaks to you. Have you ever been able to go to him? Have you been able to see him?
Well, I've had visitation dreams with him, a couple of them. And at one point, right after he passed, I had, I guess you would call it like a visitation dream, where I was there with him. And when it was time for me to go back, I didn't want to go and he didn't want me to go. And I remember looking at the, you know, the hurt in his face because he didn't want me to go. So that stayed with me for a while. And I also had a incident where one morning, you know how you're in that half sleep state where you're like half awake and half asleep? I was in that state. And I felt somebody touching my hand, rubbing my hand. And I immediately opened my eyes and he was laying there next to me.
Right.
And he, in his eyes, this look of love. It's really hard to explain because the look in his eyes was the most loving thing I've ever seen in my life. And I jerked my hand away and I blinked and I looked and he was gone.
Wow.
And I know that was real. I know it was real because I awake to him rubbing my hand.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. That's quite beautiful.
So, yeah, I've had a lot of experiences with him. But when he first passed, it's really funny because he was so adamant about me knowing that he still existed because he knew that he had to convince me because I have no imagination.
Really?
I have
Okay.
no, if you ever met anybody that had no imagination,
Really?
that would be me.
I would
I
not
have no
think that.
imagination. I could not make up anything. I just can't. I never could. Even as a kid, no imagination. You know, it's either there or it's not.
Yeah.
And he knows that about me. So he knew he had to be very adamant about what he gave me in order for me to conceive it. So he was pretty convincing.
Yeah. Do you want to share?
Very convincing.
Do you want to elaborate on that or do you want to share something else?
Well, let's see.
You should write a book.
Yes, I wrote a book.
Yes,
Story
you
of a
did write a
Songbird.
book. Okay. Okay. So you have a lot of stories
That's
in
my
there, but
book.
I'm sure you have more stories too. Now you're going to have
I
to write
do have
another
more
book.
stories.
That's called, what is it? I'll put
You
it in the
know,
link too. What is that called? Stories of a
The
Songbird?
Story of a Songbird.
Story of a Songbird. Oh,
Can you
wow.
see it?
Yes. Oh, I see the drum set. That's cool. I like that with the beautiful birds. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
spill it. Tell me more.
Okay, so I'll tell you more. At his memorial service, I'll start there because that's pretty fresh. This was during the time where I knew he was here, but I was still a little on edge because it was all new to me.
Sure. Of course.
I grew up in a household that didn't believe in the afterlife.
Oh,
Not necessarily not believe in it, but they never acknowledged it.
wow.
So
Okay.
in my household, dead was dead. And that was it.
Yeah. Interesting.
So this was pretty shocking to me. So I'm here trying
Surprise.
to acclimate myself. Yes. But he was very gentle with me. Even
Okay.
though he was adamant, he was gentle. And that being said, what I mean is he didn't necessarily just target me.
Okay.
He targeted all of us so that I wouldn't have the job of saying, oh, guys, guess what?
Right.
There's an afterlife.
Right. Right.
So I really appreciated that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But when he first passed, oh God, after the initial meeting with him
Mm-hmm.
outside, the next day, he started turning lights on and off.
Mm-hmm.
He started toying with the microwave. He came through a phone conversation with me and my daughter, my youngest daughter.
Uh-huh.
We were on the phone, and all of a sudden, the phone went static. And I'm saying, hello, hello. And all I could hear was static. And then all of a sudden, I heard him breathing
Wow. Okay.
because he had a distinctive breath pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard him breathing. And I'm in shock. I'm wordless. I'm just listening.
Yeah.
And after a couple of seconds, the phone went dead. So I immediately called my daughter back. And I said, because I didn't want to give away any information to her.
Right.
So I said, what happened? And she said, did you hear that static? I said, did you hear anything else? And she said, Mommy, I heard my daddy breathing.
Oh man. I just got chills. Yeah.
Yes,
That's pretty
yes,
amazing.
yes, yes. So, like I said, he didn't just target me,
Right.
you know.
Wow, that's
And on another
amazing. I love
occasion,
that.
yes, yes. On another occasion, my youngest daughter and her 4 kids were here. And we were just having a nice little dinner, talking about him. The kids were watching TV, and I had closed off the back of my house because he had a music room in the back of the house. So I just closed the door and closed off the whole back of the house. And for some reason, my daughter went in there and she came out, and I was in the kitchen, and she looked at me and she said, Mommy, you got to see this. And I'm like, what is it? Because all the lights were out.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked to the door, and there was a silhouette on the wall of his hat, his favorite hat. And by this time, all the kids were there too.
Okay.
And we all were like, what in the world? And I'm like, where's it coming from? And I noticed that the next door garage light, it usually goes off after a couple of seconds if someone walks by. But for some reason, it was on permanently. Mm-hmm. And it was coming through the back window, shining on the wall, but we still couldn't figure out where the silhouette of the hat was coming from. We looked everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
We could not find the
Wow.
silhouette of that hat. And then finally, it just disappeared. And my poor grandchildren were like, wow, granddaddy,
Yeah.
granddaddy knows magic, so
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
he's pretty good at manifesting these things and giving you all these
yes,
signs, and wow, that's so
yes.
cool. And so,
And then
yeah, no, go on.
I was going to say another time that was pretty amazing. When he passed, we had a poodle named Charlie, and he would play with Charlie every day. And Charlie would play with him on his hind legs,
Uh-huh.
and he just, rub his two front paws, and he would play with them.
Mm-hmm.
And one night, I looked up, and Charlie was on his hind legs, playing with the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying to myself, Tony's here. This was very early, and I was still trying to acclimate myself to
Right.
him being
Right.
present. So I'm like, oh, wow, he's here. And I go in the next room and I get my son, and we come back, and Charlie's still playing with Tony. So my son got to witness that as well.
So your husband Tony, he comes and goes. He's not there all the time. He comes and goes for visits.
Yeah, I would say so. I
It,
would say so.
is he still hanging out right now?
Yeah,
He is.
yeah,
Okay.
he's still here.
Before we came on, you were telling me that he was there, or he popped in, and so he's just kind of, let me know if he wants to share anything. You can tell me,
Okay,
you know,
okay.
but so do you get to learn anything about the other side? So, is he waiting for you? Is he building a house? Like, what do you have any info on that?
Yeah, he gives my daughter a lot of information.
Oh,
And from what she's telling me is that she actually let me know that he was building a house for me, and he would give her up-to-date progress on it from
yeah.
time to time.
Hmm.
And as of now, the house is complete as far as she's concerned.
Okay.
And he also told her that we were going to get married again. And I must say that our marriage here wasn't a big, elaborate marriage. We were definitely
Well, you were young. You were
focused
18.
on the love. Yeah, and we were focused on the love. We didn't have a lot of money, you know. And at the time, our parents didn't agree.
Mm,
So we didn't have a lot of support. We just had each other and our
yeah.
love.
Yeah. So he's planning, when you cross over, you guys are going to have a big wedding, I'm assuming.
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah,
That
I
would
mean,
be so cool.
so you joined the group that the Afterlife group, and I'm assuming, have you have a lot of the posts resonated with you when other people talk about the other side and what it looks like? Because I've heard this before, where loved ones cross over and they get things, the land and a home built, or and get things ready for their other loved ones to greet them. I find that pretty
Yes,
cool.
absolutely. Because as I stated earlier, I did get a vision, just a glimpse, but it was enough, and it was so vivid
Oh,
that it stays with me.
did you see the house in your
I,
vision?
no, I didn't see the house. I
Oh, okay.
actually saw heaven.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Once he pushed that door open, I'll never forget, on the left, there was a mountain. And beyond that, it was flowers and beautiful trees. And like I said, it only lasted a few seconds. That's why I always call it a glimpse.
Yeah.
So that's, like I said, I don't have an imagination. So I can't make anything up.
Right.
If it's not logical, if I'm not getting it from spirit, I can't just make it up.
Are your conversations like just day to day, just having a regular relationship generally when Tony's visiting and you're
Yes.
hanging out?
Yeah. Yes. I guess I should probably say how that began. Maybe about 2 weeks after he passed, I was leaning over the bed and I was crying. And all of a sudden, I actually felt him behind me. That was the very first time that I actually felt him. And it was so weird because I had no knowledge of that soul connection, that real soul connection. I had no knowledge of that. What me and him experienced when he was in a physical, I thought it was just physical.
Right.
I had no knowledge of it being spiritual. But when he walked up behind me, and I just knew it was him. And I stood straight up. I stopped crying and everything. And I'm like, okay, I know that was him. And then the very first experience I had with him climbing into bed with me was pretty awkward.
Could you feel like the bed move or your clothing tug at your clothing or anything like that?
Yes. The very first time he climbed into bed with me, I could actually feel the bed move. I could feel the covers move.
Okay.
And I could feel him touch me.
Okay.
Because he had already started touching me before that.
Okay.
And what I mean by touching, I call it a nudge. You nudge someone, like maybe like a little poke.
Right.
That's what he would do. And he would do that a lot when I would be out different places.
Oh. To say, hey, I'm here
I guess to let me know that exactly.
Yeah.
So I was already getting the little nudges.
Okay.
Before he climbed into bed with me.
He's like, he prepares you gradually.
Yeah, he does. He does prepare me gradually. And the very first time, I knew it was him. There was no doubt in my mind. I could feel him. I could feel his soul. I could feel his essence.
Right.
I could feel his touch. It was no doubt in my mind. And I could feel him come up behind me and just kind of cuddle me. So the next couple of times that went on, I was trying to get used to that experience. And what I was supposed to do with it. Was I supposed to try to continue it? Was I supposed to take it as you saying goodbye?
Right.
I didn't know how to take it.
Right.
So I kind of continued, and gradually, very slowly, it started turning into a routine.
Wow.
I began to listen to music. I began to go deeper into myself. I began to feel more from him. And to the point where now it's actually like he's there with me. I can feel him.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. I can actually feel him.
And when did you start meeting other people that were having this experience? Just from that other group, the Love Afterlife group?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe about a year or so after
Oh.
that first year, I spent that time alone because I didn't know who to turn to.
Right.
You
I
know,
wouldn't know.
I didn't
Yeah.
know of any groups of or anything.
Right.
So I didn't know if anybody else was really experiencing it. I didn't have any solid evidence that anybody else was experiencing it.
And now there's this
And then I
group.
finally met a young lady.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, I finally met a young lady. Yes, I finally met a young lady that I guess the universe sent her to me because she said, yes, I'm experiencing the same thing. And she is who led me to the different groups.
Oh, okay.
Because,
Very
it's
good.
so many grief groups. It's a lot of them,
Well, yeah, I know about grief groups, but I've
several.
never heard of a love after life, like these trans-dimensional relationships that continue on.
It's several of them.
I did
It's
not know
several
that.
of them. It's several
I'm
of
I
them.
am
I moderate
blown
2 of
away.
them myself.
Wow. Okay, so that's
Yes.
so lots of people now, I guess at this point, because you've been doing this for a few years and getting to know more and more
Yes.
people over the last few years.
Yes.
Gosh, what hope,
And
that
one thing
brings.
I can say, I was going to say one thing that I can say is that everybody's experience is different.
Mm,
You know, I'm also in contact with a young lady who uses EVP to
mm,
communicate
hmm.
with her husband. So she doesn't have any of the experiences that I have,
Okay.
but she actually talks to him every day
Well, actually, for the
through
listeners,
EVP.
can you, because I don't know that everybody would know what EVP is, can you explain what that is?
EVP is like a voice communication. It's done through, um, you can actually, it's a couple of apps that you can use for it. And it's also done through, I'm trying to remember what it's, I think it's evidential voice phenomenon.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, that would
I
be
don't
the
remember
name.
what it stands for, but yeah, I thought it was also using physical objects to communicate, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, this is just voice
Just voice. Okay.
phenomenon, I believe. Yes. And actually, at this point, they have a couple of apps that you can use for it.
Wow.
And
Cool.
I'm actually in communication with a young lady that has a grief group for mothers and
Oh,
fathers that
yeah,
lost
yeah.
kids.
Oh, yeah. That'd be
And
awesome. To,
I met her about a year in, and we became acquainted. And she actually did a EVP for me from Tony.
oh,
And I still have it. I
oh,
still have it. It's
cool.
amazing because it sounds just like him,
Whoa.
just like him, saying the
So,
exact words that he would say.
so there are groups then for moms and dads who can communicate with their children on the other side, same, and
Absolutely.
continue these relations.
Absolutely.
That would be super fascinating. Like they grow up on the other side. And so the parent gets to
Yes.
have a relationship with them of how they're growing up. And that's a whole other realm that I guess I didn't really consider. That would be
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. This young lady, Elisa Beaver, she lost her son, Matthew, maybe about 13 years ago. And since then, she has been on a warrior path for the afterlife. And Matthew is her biggest teacher.
Oh, that's so cool.
And
And so
she
he's
has
growing
done
up.
so many phenomenal things.
How old is he now then? So that was 13 years
Um,
ago.
I, I would say maybe in his early 20s.
Okay. Wow, that's really fascinating, right? Yeah, there's so
Yes,
much I'm learning. I
absolutely.
love this. I love this topic so
Yes.
much. And we're like, unfortunately, we're already out of time. And I have so much more I want to talk. I knew this was going to happen.
Well, we can do this again and I can continue because I still have a list here
I bet. I mean, I
that I haven't
want to
talked
hear
about.
more. Yeah. Can I ask you, so do you feel like this is something you can teach people, like they can learn how to get these connections with, or does your spouse have to be an older soul and be able to have more experience?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really think that I could have, I'm going to use the word conjured. I don't think that I could have conjured this up alone. I don't think that I would be at this point with him if he hadn't have pushed it himself.
Right.
I don't even know
You
if I
wouldn't
would
have,
have
you wouldn't have
tried to reach
known.
out.
You wouldn't even
That's what I'm
known
saying.
to do that.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
have even reached out exactly
Hmm.
if it hadn't have been for him coming to me.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, when he came to me, and this is why I know that this was the universe. Because when he came to me at the point, the tip, when he knew that mentally I was still at the hospital. I hadn't got home yet. So it didn't sink in that he was really gone.
Yeah.
Because I'm still at the hospital and I'm, still seeing him laying there suffering, So I'm still at the hospital. So I haven't come home yet. So he caught me at the brink
Right.
of the moment that I would have to say to myself that he is really dead.
Right. Right.
See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He caught me at the brink of that moment where I
It's
would
like
have had to make it up in
an
my
open
mind.
door. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Perfect timing.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I still want to talk to you. And I kind of wanted to say hello to Tony, who you said is with you. And
Yes.
thank both of you for sharing your love story a little bit, a teeny tiny bit of your love story. We still have to hear more.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to share your book. I'm going to share that with a link on the YouTube channel. I'm going to make sure you can share this with your family members. Is there anything else you want to say before we have to go?
I would like to say that love is the most powerful emotion in all of the universe. And with that being said, this is how relationships like this thrive.
Mm-hmm. Love
and I
keeps
just
the
wish
connection.
that, yes, I just wish that more people knew this.
Oh, me too. That's why I wanted to start doing this kind of a thing. I just feel like, why don't we all know this? Why don't more of us know this? And, you were
Absolutely.
lucky that Tony found that door and it was open and he took that opportunity to keep that connection with you. But not everybody has that. I just feel like if this were more known, you sharing your story, other people sharing their story, if this is more known, then people don't have to say goodbye in think like you
Absolutely.
said, you were gonna, your whole life you're thinking, okay, we're just physical beings, and once our physical body dies, it's over. And I mean, at this late age in life, right, this place in life, all of a sudden everything changes for you, like, oh wait, no, it's not over, it doesn't end. That's gotta be
Absolutely. Imagine that.
so life
Imagine that.
changing.
Exactly. Exactly. But I also know that this is part of our journey. And that's the way I have to look at it.
Yes.
However hard that may be, it is what it is.
Yes.
It's part of our journey. So
love keeps that connection, and that's beautiful. And I thank you so much for taking this time.
You are very welcome, Julie.
We're gonna stay connected, and we're gonna do another one of these. So
okay,
all right.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.